All right, welcome back. Welcome to part two. We had to take a break because we're drinking beer and nature calls. So
Nature
that's
calls.
it.
When it's dark outside, I just go over here and just pee in my bushes. But it
It's
does,
too
But the sun's out and I have neighbors, and
it's too light out. That's
yeah,
it.
it's too light out, too
Can't
early
do
in
it.
the day.
And he has a meatloaf rule. He's like, if you fucking start talking about meatloaf and talking shit about meatloaf, I'm leaving. I'm leaving. He was about to leave because of his love for meatloaf. But no, that's not true at all. We set out to do this just to hang out and have a couple beers. I
Yeah,
mean, that's all there is to it. Because the main thing is, and the things with a lot of the folks that I've talked to that are playing, they're jonesing to play. They people want to play. Otis was saying that. Ray was saying that. Everyone I talk to, they don't have that outlet anymore. So what the hell are you doing at this point if you don't have that? You've got a new
uh,
setup that you're gonna use.
it's. I don't want to sound like I don't make these guys mad at me, but
It's vacation.
it's like
They're gonna kick your ass if you say it's vacation.
you know, I I want to play. I do. I want to play. I want to gig. I want to be out doing my thing. I want to entertain people. I want to work. But at the same time, I did that without stopping for over 30 years.
Yeah,
That's This is the longest break I've ever had since I was 14 years old, and it's not necessarily a terrible thing. I mean, I don't want to retire. I don't want to quit my job. Anything of that
yeah.
nature. I'll do this forever, as long as nature lets me and the rest of the world. But if I'd have joined the army, I'd have retired years ago.
Right,
Instead of getting
right.
if I'd have joined the army instead of getting in a tour van, I'd have retired 10 years ago. That's and
We have
moved
to.
on to something else. It's not that bad to take a break now and
Yeah.
then, and reassess and do things differently. And I don't know. One of my life philosophies in general is that you have to be able to adapt and you have to be able to learn, because the worst reason in the world to do something is because you've always done it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of people
That
are in that boat. Uh, work wise and everything. It sucks the creativity out of you. I'm good at this, so I'm not going to try anything else, and I'm just going to keep on keeping on.
Well, you'd think I'd have written a bunch of songs with all this downtime. I haven't. I haven't written anything all year long. I've got a lot of ideas, but I haven't, really sat down and buckled down and written anything or gotten anything accomplished creativity wise. And I think part of it is because I've kind of enjoyed not having the pressure of having to go play every day.
That's true.
I'm kind of soaked that up. And I still play. I mean, obviously, I got a house full of guitars. I always keep a couple close to the couch. And you just walked through my house. You saw my living room. It's,
Yep.
it's full of instruments.
Yep.
And it's, so I play every day a little bit, whether it's doodling while I'm watching TV or whatever. But I'm starting to get the feeling now that I need to get back to work. But it's creative. It's not like I need to go sit in a bar and play music for drunk people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
not that I don't enjoy that, I do, but it's nice. I've kind of enjoyed the break. I really have. And we've got the band Knucklehead, the Otis's Cruise in house band. We have still been getting together through all of this at our rehearsal space. Rich Ellis, the drummer, has the rehearsal space underneath his house, and it's literally a bomb shelter.
I was
So
going to say you're
yeah,
making it sound like it's a bunker, and
it's
then you give me a
we
bomb
call it the
shelter.
bunker. We call it the bomb shack, and it is literally a bunker. It was built during World War II or right after, during the Red Scare and McCarthyism and all that. It is 18 inches of steel reinforced concrete underground, and it
Jeez.
was originally built as a bomb shelter. We call it the bomb shack, and that's where we rehearse. And we've been getting together down there because it's a large room that we
Yeah.
can be distanced from each other, and we're not spitting on each other when we're singing.
Yeah.
And we have recording gear down there and lots of cool stuff. And it's a great place to hang out and play music and drink with your buddies. And that really has been sustaining me as
Yeah.
far as my need to play with other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been good. But yeah, I would like to get back to work at some point. Definitely I wouldn't want this to hang around forever. But I haven't felt the desperation that a lot of other musicians have about needing to be playing, because honestly, it's been kind of nice.
We get to hang with the family for a while.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time that you don't, working the late nights and everything like that.
Oh man, if people had any idea, I've got three children, which and if the oldest one's 21 now,
Yeah.
and I've got 16 and 10. If you had any idea how many, you know, how much of everything I've missed, all the dinners, the birthday parties, the school plays, I've missed so much, and I don't really mind just sitting around for a while and hanging
Yeah.
out with my kids. It's nice.
See him do the thing. Even though
Yeah.
you're not touring on the road like Jagger or something like that,
Yeah.
you're still working every night to afford a
Yeah.
house to do whatever.
Yep.
You know,
And I did spend a lot of time on the road too, where I'd be gone for 10 weeks and home
yeah,
for 2,
yeah.
for years at a time. And that's it's like it's nice to kind of be sitting around and be a normal person.
No, I agree. I agree. Yeah, and it comes to the question I was going to ask. I mean, what brings? I'm smoking a damn cigarette.
Go for it, man. We're outdoors. Do whatever you
exactly.
want.
Your songs, they're from the road. I mean, they're road songs. You got any songs about the kids? Do you write? Have you written one? Is that too personal of stuff, or do you?
No, I write stuff every once in a while that taps into things like that. I've got one from the Belmont Sessions record, which is actually a good campfire song because I wrote it by a fire like this, and that was way back, way back. Like I said, my son, my boy, is 21 years old now, and back when he was probably, I don't know, it was before Julia was born, so he was probably 3 years old or so, 2.5, 3 years old, and we lived over on the near west side. We were living in the city of Cleveland, and one of the cool things about living in the city is that you can have fires like this all the time, as big as you want. But cops have better things to do. Nobody cares. And so I used to sit out. If I wasn't gigging at night, I would sit out in my backyard and have my fire pit and sit with my cooler full of beer and just kind of chill out. Once the sun goes down and it's dark out, especially when you're sitting right by a fire and you're looking at it, your night vision goes away. So you get in this little circle where all you can see is your fire and the little bushes around you. And you really do feel like you're somewhere else. You don't feel like you're in a city.
Yeah.
And I needed that escape back in those days because I wasn't that far removed at that time from all the time I'd spent out in West Texas and up in the mountains in New Mexico. And I was much more of an outdoor person, and the city was still pretty new to me. And so I needed that escape. But I was sitting out there one evening, and I don't remember where Maureen was, maybe working late or something. But all of a sudden I noticed there's this presence, and it was my son. He'd gotten out of bed and come outside and come and sat down. He couldn't sleep. He wanted to be with his dad. And so I sat him down with me by the fire and stuff. And when he got tired and I put him back to bed, I wrote this song. It's called Lullaby. Six o'clock and all is well, sitting by the wishing well. Drop a penny, speak your dreams. Life ain't always what it seems. Drop a penny, speak your dreams. Life ain't always what it seems. If I wake up in the morning, I promise I'll not waste a day. By the mighty rolling river, roll all of my cares away. By the mighty rolling river, let it roll my cares away. Well, there's blackbirds in the big blue sky, serpents in the deep blue sea, table full of beans and biscuits, plenty there for you and me. Beans and biscuits, beer and bacon, plenty there for you and me. Got no fear of being lonely, got no fear of being free, got no fear of any answers, no matter what the questions be. Never fear an honest answer. Ask the question, let it be. When it's time to lay me down, lay me down to take my rest. Fly away my soul forever. So and sweet's my last request. Fly away my soul forever. Slow and sweet's my last request. 8 o'clock, the stars are twinkling. 8 o'clock, the moon's on high. Lay you down, be still, my dear one. Listen to my lullaby. Lay you down, be still, my bright boy. Underneath the purple sky. Lay you down, be still, my dear one. Listen to my lullaby.
That's great. That is great. That is great. When it comes from that personal experience, it's something else. By the way, I feel like Dick Cavett back in the '70s. He was fucking chain smoking. He's smoking and talking. Everyone's smoking on the things. But
Another Dick reference.
another Dick. Always Dick in this. Always Dick. Uh, and it begs the different thing because that's a personal feeling. And I think back to songwriters that I respect. When I was growing up with Uncle Tupelo and Ryan Adams, which we don't speak his name these days because he got in some trouble. But
Yeah, he came out of that whole Me Too thing pretty bad.
yeah, he did. He's kind of quiet about it at this point, but still, I dig him. But some of those songs, like 16 Wheels for him with Whiskey Town, is a song about a truck driver. And he's never a fucking truck driver. Uncle Tupelo is singing songs about Moonshiner comes to mind, coal miners. There's a whole bunch of songs that I think about, and I'm like, how in the fuck
Well,
did these people
there's
write
things
this?
that you don't have to do personally to be able to relate to. If it's something that you can see personally and interact with personally, maybe you have a conversation with someone, or maybe you have a family member, who's maybe elderly and likes to tell stories at Thanksgiving that no one else wants to listen to.
Yeah, yeah,
But he goes out to smoke and you do too. So you get all these great stories, and it doesn't to make something a personal song doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily mean it had to happen to you or that you had to be a part of
yeah.
it. It can be someone you're close to, or something like that. There's a lot of things like that, and
And I take it back about Moonshiner because that's a Dylan song, isn't
I think it is.
it? So they didn't write that song, but I still associate.
I mean, Dylan's a great example, though. I mean, how much crap did he write songs about that he had nothing to do with?
Yeah.
That were
No.
brilliant.
No.
And I mean, Dylan is one of those people. People like to think of him. Dylan gets wrongly labeled an activist. Dylan was never an activist.
No. He was just a part
Dylan
of the
never
time.
participated in any of that crap. Joan Baez would show up to sit-ins, where everybody's chaining themselves together, and people would be, oh, Joan's here. Dylan's gonna show. Dylan's not showing up. Dylan doesn't care.
Dylan's cool, man.
Yeah,
It's
Dylan.
good.
She would tell people. She'd say, Dylan, he doesn't care about your movement or your passion, or he did. Dylan was never an activist. What Dylan saw, though, what he personally experienced that enabled him to write those songs was he lived in that time and he was immersed in that culture and those people, and he did it on purpose. I think.
Yeah.
I think he immersed himself in those people and was constantly surrounded by them, and he was an observer. And as an observer, especially for people that he actually did care about, like Joan and a lot of those other folks that were in the scene, that he was actually really friends and did have relationships with, that's where he got his material. So it was personal,
Yeah.
even though it wasn't anything he was ever going to participate in or be a part of.
But he became the
it was-
voice of it. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the
he
thing. It's
became
like,
the voice of that whole generation because he was the guy who found a way to look around and round it up and put it into words. And especially in a witty and smart and sarcastic way a lot of the time. You
That's
know,
amazing. And you think about Dylan and all the people that he. You probably have to do a Dylan song next because we're going to talk about him a lot. But you think about Dylan. And
believe it or not, I know a couple Dylan songs.
I think you might. I think you might. So my thing with Dylan, and I never liked him. It's another one that I grew to enjoy. Is he was the voice for multiple people. Let's just be honest, that can't fucking sing. It's kind of like the Neil Young thing. Neil Young can't fucking sing.
I disagree. I think both of them can sing very well.
All right. I'll go with you on that. But you think about, and I just listened to Billy Bragg, Back to Basics. Amazing thing. But I mean, Billy Bragg could be or should be the Woody Guthrie of our generation. So you think about these
I don't
folks,
disagree there.
and I think that Woody Guthrie was a great influence on everything. I think Woody Guthrie was a great influence on Dylan as well. But you think of people like the Mekons and John Langford on their soapbox that are still protesting to this day. I said these guys are like Billy Bragg. I said Billy Bragg is the Clash without drums or bass. I mean, it's protest song after protest song. And he writes great love songs as well. But I mean, that's to me what but it was all Dylan. I mean, it was Dylan that birthed that. That Dylan birthed so many things he inspired so many people. There's songs written about him, for crying out loud. Wilco did Dylan's Beard, and Bingham did. I don't remember the fucking song, but it was another Dylan song that he mentions too. But he's inspired so many people. But again, he was on the outside looking in. And that's the same way I feel about Langford, about Billy Bragg, and anyone that's a protest writer. How come they can't be Dylan? How come no one's ever going to elevate to that level?
I think because it's too personal. And when it's too personal and you're too close to it, you can't take yourself out of it and write about it objectively, which is what Dylan did.
Okay.
Dylan was objective. He was able to take the message and phrase it in a way that was universal because he wasn't as close to it.
Okay.
He wasn't saying, stop. It wasn't. It was less obvious, and anytime you can be less obvious and cleverly, disguise something, and use innuendo and use metaphor, and use things, it becomes way more clever, and way more artistic, and way more accessible to other people, because there's a lot of people who don't give a shit about black guys getting beat by the cops.
No.
They don't care.
No.
So if you write a song about black guys getting beat by the cops, nobody cares.
No.
They're not going to listen to it. But if you take a song and you use metaphor and cleverly disguise the issue so that everybody who's really into it knows what you're talking about, all of a sudden, but the guys who don't mind black people getting beat by the cops aren't going to go, oh, that liberal pussy.
Right.
All of a sudden, you got a song that millions of people are going to listen to and is going to become very popular, because at that point it becomes a sculpture and not written words on a tablet that say "Don't beat the black guys."
Right.
Right. Because that's that. Also, there's other people who maybe were raised not to mind and have a conscience, but they were raised not to mind, but they have a conscience. So they maybe don't want to drive around in their car playing songs about not beating black people, but they'll play Bob Dylan. Because
I think
that's not
the crux of that whole thing too. And I think that the thing that made me laugh during the Trump administration, especially recently with the election, was the dancing crowds to Rage Against the Machine.
They don't know.
And I didn't get it. I mean, I'm like, how are you fucking dancing to this when it's an anti-fascist movement? And that song's about, it's not about him. It was about Bush at the time, or Reaganomics, or whatever you want to call it. It was about the machine, and you're part of the machine. And I see people.
I can tell you, all those same people, if you show them a Renoir or a Dali painting, they're not going to get that either.
True.
They're not.
True.
We're dealing with with a segment of the population that just is surface. Everything's surface. Everything is obvious. Everything is face value. It's whatever they see, that's what it is to them. And whatever they hear, that's what it is to them. So when they hear Zach De La Rocha saying "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me,"
right?
That's all they hear.
And that's exactly the one. That was the video.
They don't have the mental fortitude to dig any deeper or to look into it, because they don't want to learn anything. What they want is they want their biases confirmed. They want it's confirmation bias. They want their biases confirmed. They want their paranoia confirmed. They want someone with a loud voice to say what they want to say in their small voice. And if they hear those 3 words or 4 words or 5 words or whatever it is, that's good enough for them. They'll latch onto it. That's all they need.
And it was just a bizarre alternate universe when I saw them draped in the American flag, dancing around saying "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me" about
They don't
masks,
understand it.
about fucking
They don't
masks,
understand
man.
it.
And that's the thing.
All they
I don't get it. I don't
they
get it.
they don't want to dig any deeper. They don't want to learn anything. They don't want to put any work into it, and they definitely don't like that their world is changing and they have no control over it. So if they hear something that sounds to them like it's confirming that they're right and everybody else is crazy, that's what they're going to latch onto.
Why can't they just dance
And
to
that's well, you know what?
Wang Dang Poontang, Sweet
Frickin'
Poontang, or whatever? I mean, that's the base. That's the
I
base.
thought that I thought that Fogerty was hysterical when he was they asked him, somebody in the media confronted him and asked him about, well, how do you feel about the Trump campaign using "Fortunate Son," what they're,
Yeah.
which is makes no sense whatsoever. It's
no.
like, did anybody listen to these lyrics?
That's no.
And Fogerty said, I'm not going to say yay or nay. He goes, I'm trying to figure out where they're going with this. Like, I mean,
This is
whole,
my story.
I don't remember
Keep on
his
going.
exact words, but he was like, I'm trying to figure out what they mean and where they're going with this because I don't get it. Like,
Well,
I want to see where this ends up.
He was only born with it. He only got a loan of like $2 million. I mean, all of us get that at our 18th birthday party. Said, here's your $2 million. Go do what you need to do with it. But to take the blue collar music, to take Dylan, to take Rage,
everybody who is of that persuasion tries to do that.
But
They try to be the common man, and they don't, but they're not,
they're not.
and they never will be. And it was when Reagan used "Born in the USA."
You're right.
Like, and again, I always wondered, did anyone on his team, because I come from a little different place. I didn't used to, but now I've spent over 20 years married to a woman who's a communication specialist in the government and public affairs and political fields. And she's a communications director and she's kind of a goddess of this stuff. And I've learned so much about it now. I can't believe that there is no one on those teams that actually listened and pulled apart those lyrics to find out what they said. Because if you're trying to get a message across, the whole thing is, what message am I sending with this? And you have to look at it.
So
But then again, I get called at least once a year to go play Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah at a wedding. And I always have to send the lyrics to the bride and say, I want you to look at this and make sure it's really what you want.
said, oh yeah, I absolutely want that.
And every time she comes back and goes, oh, I had no idea. And, no, you like the way it sounds.
It does.
And you like the way, you like Hallelujah. You like, and there's certain little bits that you grab onto. But no, every time someone calls me and asks me to play Hallelujah at their wedding, I print out the lyrics and I send them to them and I go, this is what you want, just making sure.
No, that's not me anymore.
Yeah, they always come back and go, holy crap.
But now, I mean, it's so different from when Cohen was around, when Dylan was around. It wasn't, and I think it started there with the snippets of the Vietnam War.
The sound bites are the worst.
And that's all we are as a generation now with Facebook and Instagram. What can I jam into 60 seconds or 3 or 4 sentences or certain characters that'll make that message? But it's not really the message that was sold in the first place. So what is it about it in our society today that can take something that is completely fucking off the rails, the polar opposite, like Fortunate Son, like Rage, like anything like that, to say, I'm going to use this. They're using Village People. The Village People with Trump. The guy hates homosexuals. He hates that community. They're using the Village People. What is it in those songs that's so there in that just two sentence snippet that says, this is cool, let's use this song?
Well, you can take anything out of context.
That's true.
I can take, we had our conversation earlier where we were having the whole dick joke thing, and I was like, I embrace dicks, and you were like, you're a dick embracer. I can take that snippet and of you saying you're a dick embracer and put you on the internet as a homophobe and a hater of gay people, and guess what? Your house is going to get burned down.
That's it.
And because nobody's going to take the time to figure out the context or the greater picture or what's going on.
And I've had that. I've had to walk back because I'm controversial. I like to stir shit up, and I've had people come come point blank to me and say, "Why the fuck did you say that?" I'm like, "Well, I didn't believe it." I mean, that's coming from a place of absolute opposite world.
Yeah. Well, sarcasm is lost on a lot of people too.
Exactly,
And
especially in print. And I think that's the hardest part is that we are dealing with a medium that isn't video, that isn't audio.
Yeah.
It's all on words at this point. So if I say something, they're like, "You're a fucking dick." I'm like, well, yeah,
well,
that time I was, but
the collective intelligence of the world also has gone. I mean, especially in this country. I mean, look what we've done to the education system.
Yeah.
I mean, satire is lost on most people. They don't get. You can't write things jokingly anymore without it being spread all over the internet, as you said this.
But other countries can, and that's the thing. Like France and
other countries value education and educators,
and you still have, even though that the government is, it's pretty neutral in a lot of places. You still have the satire place. France is a great.
The Europeans, the UK and Europe really get, and to a lesser extent, but still very cool. New Zealand and Australia, they get satire.
Yeah.
And they get sarcasm.
Yeah.
And they still use it very effectively.
Yeah.
Here in America, we have dumbed our population down by defunding education and by, vilifying and demonizing educators and people who are educated to the point, we have half of our population who has spent 50 years at least now, telling people that, they're not smarter than you.
Right. Right.
Don't let them get you. So they went, so they got an education. So they went to get. Do you have to listen to them? They're just elite bastards.
They just have money. They just have money.
They're just dumbasses with money and papers, and it's coming home to roost. It's coming home to roost. I think my generation, yours, we're about the same age. I think our generation was one of the last ones where, even growing up in the South, in the GOP stronghold, in the Bible Belt, in nowhere bumfuck West Texas, I still have my elders telling me, listen to people smarter than you.
Yeah.
Listen to people who went to college. Yeah. Listen to people who got an education. These are the people you should aspire to be like.
Right.
Because you know what? Otherwise, do you want to work with them or for them? That's what my dad used to say. Do you want to work with that guy or do you want to work for him? Who do you want? You want your kids to be the boss or do you want them to work for the boss? That was how I was raised, and it was all based around education.
It's nuts.
And education has been vilified and demonized for so long at this point.
It has.
By half the country, that it's ridiculous, and we're paying the price for it. Like I said, it's coming home to roost.
And that's the biggest problem. I think when one of the biggest examples for me that I said, what the fuck just happened, was when oh my God, the band in France that got shot up, the Queens of Stone Age.
The Eagles of Death Metal.
Eagles of Death Metal. That's only for America. We built that. We built that that thing where that should have happened here, and that came over to France to roost, because I think that our roots and the stronghold that America takes.
Oh, it's a toxic plague and it's spreading.
And that's why that was the first time I saw school shooting. I saw. I never expected someone to go up into France and just blow out that place and kill all those people. The Vegas thing that went down, yeah. I saw. I said no.
Everybody saw that coming.
That made sense. That made sense. But in France it didn't. But again, there's not a Dylan anymore. There's not that I know of. There is on a street corner somewhere in Mississippi somewhere playing that guitar, writing songs.
There's Ray Flanagan.
There is Ray Flanagan.
That's the closest thing I've seen to anything like that in my entire 47 years.
And it's true.
And that kid's got a fire in his belly, and he's about the right things. And I think, given the opportunity, he will do some really great stuff, not just for himself, but for all of us.
And I agree. His song that he played on the last one, I'm like,
and Ray, when you see this, I'm not putting that on you, brother. It's not your responsibility.
You're Superman. Put on the cape, man.
It's not your responsibility, and it's not your problem. But I appreciate what you're doing in spite of that.
But it's true. But I mean, do we get apathetic? Did songwriters, did everyone to make $1? Did we get apathetic?
Definitely,
okay.
Absolutely.
And that makes sense. I mean, it's wild when you talk about Rage. I mean, we're a songwriter with an acoustic guitar. We're talking about Rage, but probably one of the last great revolutionary bands. I mean, with a message.
Yeah.
That
Well,
pounded
one
it.
that hit the mainstream anyhow.
Right, exactly.
You know,
How the hell they do it with what they were doing? Number one, but
I mean, there might be 100 of them out there. We don't know right now because they're not gonna. Yeah.
no, they're not going
That's
to make
not.
it because
Yeah.
they're being held back.
Oh yeah.
You know that's the other thing. Dude, Public Enemy. You talk about we go in the hip hop thing. Public Enemy is
Public Enemy and NWA.
unreal.
That was revolutionary.
Absolutely, and then
And
it
it was
stopped. And well, Public Enemy's still doing it, but
man,
someone took away
you
their
know why
stage.
old white people hated that stuff so much? Because it was the death of everything that built them. And
I agree.
And it was reasonable for it to be that. They deserved it.
Absolutely, I agree. And he's still, I mean, Chuck D's still fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
But is it mainstream? When is the next mainstream? You know, and I think I go back to when John Kerry was running and the Springsteen was playing at the thing. REM's playing. All these bands are playing, and somewhere between the '90s and the 2000s, the message left the music and it went to more pop. You know, and I think there's a lull in the '90s from the late '90s to the 2000-ish when you know White Stripes and all that kind of stuff came around, where music actually wasn't shit. It wasn't boy bands. It wasn't manufactured pop.
Yeah.
You know, so that was that's my thing. But that I mean, this is a long conversation about Bob Dylan. But we got a lot to say, and I'd love to hear.
We said so much. We got so far off the track. You know what? I'm going to play you a Dylan song.
Play me a Dylan song.
And I say we use that as a. I say we use that as the closer.
That's fine. That's fine. We had a good time.
And I'm not going to play a political Dylan song because it's not my favorite one. And if I'm playing, you know, favorite songs today, this is. People say that Bob Dylan has so many wonderful songs that you can't pick a favorite. And bullshit. Yes, you can.
I got one right here.
This is my favorite Bob Dylan song. And one of the reasons I admired Dylan as a writer so much was because he could be topical, you know, and he could be controversial, and he could be in the moment. I mean, look at Hurricane. I mean, that was a song about, you know, not beating the black guy and sending him to jail. That was one of the times that he came right out and was right in the middle of it, and wasn't cleverly disguised. But you know, he also could write love songs, and he could write, you know, ballads, and he could. You know, Dylan was. That's why he's the master. And but anyway, this is not a political or topical song. This is just my very favorite Bob Dylan song. I'm sailing away, my home true love. I'm sailing away in the morning. Is there something I can send you from across the sea? From the place where I'll be landing. There's nothing you can't send me, my home true love. There's nothing I'm wishing to be on him. Just carry yourself back to me unspoiled from across that lonesome ocean. Well, I just thought you might want something fine, made of silver, made of gold, maybe from the mountains of Madrid, from the coast of Barcelona. Well, if I had the stars from the darkest night, or the diamonds from the deepest oceans, well, I'd forsake them all for your sweet kiss. Is all I'm wishing to be on. just that I'll be gone such a long, long time. And it's only that I'm asking. Is there something I might send you to remember me by? To make your time more easy passing. Well, how can you ask me again? Well, you know, it only brings me sorrow. The only thing I'd ask from you today will be the same I'd want tomorrow. Well, I got a letter on a lonesome day. It was from her ship a sailing, saying I don't know if I'll be coming back again. It depends on how I'm feeling. Now, if you, my love, must feel that way, I can tell your mind doesn't roam me, and I know your heart is not with me. But on the country where you're going, so take heed of the western wind. Take heed of stormy weather. And yes, there's something you can bring back to me. Spanish boots of Spanish leather. Bye, everybody.
Thanks everyone for coming out. I enjoyed it. I get my own private concerts. It's a good thing. And thanks for watching. Join us again because it's going to pretty much be the GS Harper show and Jason Perchaski show until people want to show up and do this thing.
But, hey, you know, it's going to be too cold soon to bring the guitar out, but we can still use the fire pit. We'll just put our coats on and we'll come out here and bullshit about stuff.
That's it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Our production crew is not with us today, so you get to see my crotch probably and my hand. Enjoy it. Thanks for watching.